For today's project, you're going to need a bit of a green thumb. So you can decide whether you want just a whimsical garden or you could change it into a gnome garden, depending on what your preference is. You could also even make it into a fairy garden. You can decide whether you want your book to match your project. I was thinking that a really fun gardening book would be fantastic, or nursery rhymes. Just make sure that your book is very, very thick, probably 600 pages or more. So let's get started with our fun project today. In your book garden, you're going to need a book that's very, very thick. This book has 875 pages. I would say at least 600 or so, because you're going to need it to be thick enough so that you have room for your soil and your plants. So the first step is you're going to measure in 2 centimeters on all sides. So I went ahead and did that, and then you're going to draw a straight line, and that's where you're going to cut. So you're going to need some sort of utility knife and a straight edge. And you're going to want to be very, very careful. You don't want this to slip. It's going to take quite a while to do this. There are other ways to do this if you had different types of power tools. I don't do this all the time, so I've never tried doing it that way, but this will work. It's just going to take a while. So I've probably already cut down, I would say 10-15 pages. I'm going to turn and continue working. This step is definitely the most tedious. So I'm going to continue cutting through this. As you can see, I've cut through probably this much, and I'm going to continue cutting through. I'm going to leave a base of probably about 100 pages or so on the bottom for the bottom part. So at this point, I've probably spent close to an hour, I would say, cutting through this many pages. It does take a lot longer than you might think, but it's slow and steady. I mean, of course, you don't want to get hurt as well. You are cutting through a lot. So I'm continuing to cut. The nice thing about this project is if you rip a few pages here or there, or things don't go quite as you think, it's all going to be hidden because these are the under pages. So just try to be as exact as you can be. But really, a lot of the little mistakes will be hidden, which is nice about this project. I was also thinking, as I'm removing all these pages, nice thing about upcycling is that I want to continue to upcycle. So I'm going to put in the link in this video. You could either make vintage, you could make the roses, you could make these really fun paper bowls. So you have a lot of options that you could continue to make with the paper you're removing. So as you can see, I'm going over this over and over again to try to get as deep as I can and get as many pages removed at once. The corners are where it's most tricky. That's where they seem to kind of want to hang. And I want to be honest with you, I do use scissors at some points to cut the parts that the knife didn't exactly get right. So I do use scissors as well. So I'm going to continue to work on this. I finished cutting out the pages, and what I did is I left one page and moved it over. So that'll be the rim. And then I took this freezer bag and I cut it in such a way to line my hole. I then took some small stones from outside Make sure they're nice and clean so you're not spreading anything, but just for some drainage, just because there is no other drainage in this project. And make sure your plastic goes over all the sides because you're going to tuck it in at the end so you won't be able to see it, but it needs to be extra long, but I don't want to do that until the very, very end. Then I'm going to put in some of my dirt. I'm being very careful not to get the book dirty. That's kind of the trick of this project. Trying to get that dirt. There's actually space underneath all those extra pages to the right, so I'm trying to tuck some of that dirt in there. As you can see, I'm just using this bag to protect the book. And then what I decided to do is I got this really small little pot that I decided that I'm going to put it on its side. So I'm actually going to scoot this area over. So it'll be almost like it's a dumped out pot. I thought that would be just a little, something that's a little bit whimsy. A lot of people make these into fairy gardens, gnome gardens. Just something whimsical. And by using this pot, it actually is going to give me a little bit of extra planting spot. But it'll look like it's just like a tipped over pot. Put dirt around it. And then you're going to start transplanting your plants. You're going to use succulents for this because you need something that's not going to have deep roots and that doesn't need a lot of water. So here's one of my succulents. I'm actually going to put it as if it fell out of the pot. But this won't work with plants that need a lot of water or that have deep roots. So I would definitely stick to cactuses. Or is that cacti? Not really sure. I think it is cacti and succulents. I'm going to continue working on this, and then after I figured I had a few things planted, I was going to use just some fun moss that I found, and then just some rocks from outside. So I'm going to continue kind of planted my whimsical garden. I've added a little bit of this fake moss that I found, and then 2 succulents, and then just some more stones I found out in the garden. So now we have to deal with the plastic layer that we need to hide. So we're going to go ahead and start trimming it now. You want to leave enough so that you can tuck it under that first piece of paper to hide it. So go ahead and trim, trim, trim. Kind of a trick to how much do you leave and how much do you really want to hide between the pages. So I took this page over because that's what you're going to be hiding all of this underneath. So as you can see, still a little bit too long. I'm going to use a combination of this tacky glue that I know that's going to stick to plastic and paper, and then just some tape to hold it in place while it's drying. I'm just going to use my finger for this. You don't have to, I just think it gets a little bit easier to, again, just trimming a little bit more. Always easier to trim more than to take back the over trimming. So continuing just to glue that down. And in the corner, you really don't want it to get bulky because it will show. You don't want that top layer to be kind of crimply. So I'm going to kind of work a little bit to kind of just decrease that bulk. But the corners are really the trickiest part. So I will continue to do that.